And principalities cannot control this man because he surrounds himself with Christians.
You see, why would our God give us a president who swears? Why would he give us a president who's had affairs with women?
And I don't think he came to be president by mistake or by happenstance. I think somehow God put him in this position. God, in some reason, put him there for a purpose. I don't know what that is.
And they're ready to put an end to this crap, as the president said. And I think it's time for us to form a resistance and do that.
There is a war in the world against God. God.
All right, well, we are excited today to have Sister Simone Campbell with us on What Would Jesus Pod. I've had the pleasure of getting to know Sister Simone at a couple of the last two Democratic conventions, and she is one of the loveliest people, and it's not just on television. You might think, oh, that's a persona. No, it's not. She's like that in real life. She's like that all the time. Actually, got to sit next to the Nuns on the bus at the 2012 convention, and it was the coolest experience. I was like bragging to everyone, I sat next to Nuns on the bus. and you guys were so just like, you were so fun. You were so animated that night, and you spoke that night about social justice and what it means to really be pro-life. It was so inspirational. So definitely want to share a little bit about that message with our audience today. So Sister Simone, if you don't know, is Executive Director of Network Lobby, Catholic Social Justice Lobby in DC. They do amazing work. You're going to hear more about that today. And she is very famous for starting the Nuns on the Bus movement, which I'm sure you've heard about. If you haven't, where have you been living? What have you been listening to? What have you been reading the past 10 years or however long it's been? It's been a while. How long has it been since Nuns on the Bus started, actually, Sister Simone?
Well, it actually started in 2012, so it's 8 years, almost 10. So.
Oh, wow. Yeah, almost. Wow. And so for people who might not be familiar, who have been living under a rock, explain a little bit about what Nuns on the Bus was and just the movement and what you guys were able to do, how the whole idea came about.
Well, it all got started because we have to back up a little bit. In the 2010 fight over healthcare reform, I wrote what's called the Nuns letter that was signed by 59 Catholic sisters who were the leaders of their religious congregations, and many of their congregations ran healthcare facilities, so they knew what they were talking about. And they spoke out in favor of the Affordable Care Act. Our beloved Conference of Catholic Bishops were told that there was federal funding for abortion in the Affordable Care Act, which was not true, but that's what they were told. So they opposed the Affordable Care Act. So we had kind of the nuns versus the bishops. And what happened was, as one of the signers of the letter said, oh, Sister Simone, for once, the boys played the girls, and for once, the girls won. And the boys are upset. Well, 2 years later, the boys were still upset. And so we got caught in a political church politics machination where we got called out as being a bad influence on Catholic sisters because we supported radical feminist themes incompatible with the gospel. It was like, what? Anyway, but the good news of this, and this is how being a person of faith is really important, you see how the Spirit works. The good news of this was that we had all this notoriety. We had all this media attention on us. And my question was, how do we use this moment for mission? And so we asked around DC, we had a meeting in our office, and in an hour-and-a-half meeting, these secular colleagues of ours said, well, you got to do what you've been doing, which is pushing back against the Ryan budget. But you should go on a bus. It has to be a wrapped bus. And you go out and you oppose the Ryan budget and lift up the works of Catholic sisters. So, oh, okay, that's what we'll do. I had no idea about anything about a wrapped bus. I was so afraid it had something to do with rap music that I don't like. But it turned out, just, the design on the bus. And it was like, I mean, for me, it was a action of the Spirit, because it was like everybody came together. We made it happen. We had the idea on May 14th, and we're on the road on June 17th. I mean, that's really quick. I said we couldn't go public until we had the money pledged. We had the money in 10 days. I mean, it was like the Spirit alive and well. And then each of our stops was like magic, with people coming together and standing up and being community and speaking out for the needs of their towns or cities. And that same reality is continued for all, what have we done? 6 bus trips that we've done so far. And after, on the 3rd bus trip, we added something even better, which was that if you pledge to whatever community building thing we're doing, then after you sign your pledge card, then you get to sign the bus. So that by the end of the trip, it was not just nuns on the bus, but it was everybody on the bus. And that created some of the most sacred moments of people signing the bus and getting a photo of them signing the bus, or looking for their friends, or, I mean, it was just, it was special beyond belief. It's just been magic, and it's all about community and caring for the common good.
Yeah.
So, Holy Spirit did great work. I'm totally enthused.
Yeah, I had the pleasure of signing the bus and bringing some of our team, Christian Democrats, down. And whenever you came into the town we were at the time, there was a protest going on, and then we had both sides. We had people there, saying, these nuns are, for killing babies, and of course that's always what you get. There you go. They had nuns for killing babies, whatever. And then you had the other side, there with their protest. So, I mean, what better way, though? I mean, you guys are causing a stir. And that's what, I mean, every town that Jesus went into, he caused a stir, right? So how are we not supposed to do that as people of faith today?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And speak up for the needs of all. And the other piece is, we were protested by the Westboro Baptist folks when we were in Topeka.
Congratulations.
Badge of honor. And the whole theme of the bus trip was bridge the divides. Well, people were wanting to protect me from the protesters. It was like, no, wait a minute, I got to go talk to them. Because if we don't reach out and talk across the aisle, or across the divide, or across the anger, who's going to do it? And what I know from the gospel is Jesus went every place, and people would get upset at him if it was with disturbing messages. Well, how can we not talk to folks that might disturb us, or we disturb them? So that's
speaking of talking to people who might disturb us, you talked to Congress last week, or was it the Senate? Was it Senate?
No, it was the House. In the House, it was the
okay.
House Government Oversight Committee.
Okay, yeah. So how did that go, and what was that about?
Well, it was about, the House Committee on Government Oversight is looking at the administration's use of regulation to undercut supports for kids. And so looking at it from the angle of children, what's going on? And so they asked me to testify on the panel looking at something really technical. It's called chained CPI. Now, doesn't that sound boring? But what it is a change in the regulation of how poverty is determined. And here's what they want to do. They want to change it so you do one snapshot of the cost of food at one point. And 6 months later, you do another snapshot, and then you average the result together. Well, if you average it together, it actually reduces the impact of the rising costs on low-income people to determine the poverty measure. Well, now here's the other piece. They say, people have choices. You can go places and choose different items so that you could save money. So this really is more accurate. Well, I say to them, that is the upper class, the upper middle class experience that they're putting on poor people, without the realization that low-income people don't have choice. They can't go places. And we've just done this whole series of rural roundtables around the country. And so I was able to talk about rural communities that don't have grocery stores. all they have are Family Dollar or Dollar General. And some of them have a cold, refrigerated section, but a bunch of them don't. And none of them have fresh fruits or vegetables. But that's where they get their food. Those are their grocery stores. And they shop for the lowest price item all the time. There's none of this going around. And then the folks that are proposing this say, well, they can buy in bulk. Low-income people can't buy in bulk because they don't. You have to.
That takes an upfront cost.
Exactly, an upfront. Not only an upfront cost, it also takes an upfront space in small rental units to store stuff, and the capacity to carry it home. Now, I'll tell you my own experience. I gave up my car a bunch of years ago now here in D.C. because my community needed it in L.A. or Los Angeles more than I needed here. And my community's poor, so they really needed it. So I gave it up. But I had a Costco membership. So I ride my bike over to Costco to go shopping. And I walked into Costco and got the giggles because here I was with my bike planning to buy something at Costco, and folks who know Costco, they only have the most ginormous size. So all I could get was a bit of shampoo that I could squeeze into my pannier and then some vitamins. But I gave up my Costco membership because it's just not doable unless you have a car. Yeah. It doesn't make sense. So that's the thing that while it sounded really technical, change CPI, it really was about putting on low income families the experience of the wealthy and being surprised.
And it really is just the fudge and the math.
Absolutely.
When you're taking snapshots like that, you're supposed to be looking at the differences, not the averages, because that average isn't going to show you anything that's accurate or true, not in a lived experience.
Absolutely, Justin. Absolutely. And the fact is that it's all done for a political message. And the message is this: low-income families shouldn't be helped. Only the wealthiest in our nation should be.
Right.
And my astute political analysis is liar, liars, pants on fire.
Yeah, I agree with that analysis.
Yeah.
Right. And this goes right into what it really means overall to have an outlook of being pro-life. And that's something that always stuck with me about your speech at the 2012 Democratic Convention. And it's something that we get a lot, obviously, being Christian Democrats from the very beginning. I've been dealing with that argument for 10 years or more about, the abortion argument. So, and a lot of our audience likes to hear from leaders like you and how you handle that argument, because it could be said that Trump was elected because of the abortion argument, because so many Christians are only one issue voters, and they're being fed this entire stream of propaganda that you can't vote for any candidate that's pro-choice, because somehow, that means that you're going to hell because you're, supporting. Yeah. So how do you, as a Catholic lobby and as a sister, how do you handle that when you get it from religious folks who are concerned about the issue?
Well, quite frankly, our organization network doesn't have a formal position on abortion because we don't work on it. But what I personally have come to is the fact that it frustrates me no end that the far left and the far right have no interest in settling this issue. Neither one, because they both use it as an organizing principle and to mobilize their base. And the far left and the far right have been very effective in doing that. And so we remain polarized. And the thing that causes me anguish is in the process, we don't take care of women. We don't take care of mothers. We don't take care of babies. And okay, so today the president's budget came out, and his proposal is to cut all kinds of funding for children, for SNAP benefits, for food stamps, cut Medicaid. I mean, the very services that promote life are being cut by this pro-life president. I mean, that's just wrong. That's just wrong. But what it takes is what I've come to learn is it takes we who have a more complex, nuanced view of the issue to speak up. And I've been silent far too long. I mean, I did speak up in 2012. I talk about it a bit. But what I really want to do is care for women. Our Catholic faith does not require the outlawing of abortion. What people don't know is that in France, they have a much more liberal abortion law, but they have a much lower rate of usage of abortion because women get a year's paid maternity leave to be home with their child, their infant. Women get prenatal care as part of the common good for their society. Childcare is made affordable for everyone. So what evidences, if we take care of moms and their babies, abortion will be chosen much less. So I'm all about supporting moms. Let's do it. And what's great right now is Pope Francis last year in his exhortation on holiness, and it's paragraph 101, if anybody wants to look it up, talks about how it's important to be pro-life, how important it is to care for the unborn. But then he says, equally important, however, is care for the born, care for the marginalized, care for those who are hungry, care for the earth, and care for those who are, subject to human trafficking and impacted by covert euthanasia. And I was like, covert euthanasia? What is he talking about? Well, I have this odd prayer life, so I prayed about it. What is covert euthanasia? And what I realized it was that for our nation is denying health care to the elderly, denying health care to the sick and infirm. That is covert euthanasia. And so I'm pro-life, the whole of it. And I'm for supporting women and care for their infants and children. What a radical thought. Huh? Isn't that what Jesus did?
Right. Yeah, and what a radical thought that we would actually want to find solutions like you're talking about, instead of just talking points and throwing out accusations. Actually have policy that will reduce abortion. And that's what I tell people is if that's your point of concern, then maybe do a little homework on which party, what kind of legislation helps to actually reduce the number of abortions. If that's your worry, then that should be what you focus on. But you're so right. The care of women, we see that in Jesus' ministry, don't we? All throughout, the care of women, the care of families and those that are on the margins. And so often those things are what's forgotten in this entire argument. So I appreciate you bringing.
And the other piece is women often led Jesus to things. Yes. So that women have the capacity to make these changes. I mean, I think of the wedding feast at Cana. I mean, his mother said, it's time, do it. And you think of the woman who, had the hemorrhage and she just thought, if I could just touch the hem of his garment. He wasn't out to commit, to do miracles or anything like that. It was her faith that believed it. Or the widow of Naim and her son who had died, and Jesus cures him to care for his mother. I mean, it's over and over again, women are the leaders. So I say, looks like maybe we've got some work to do. We need to speak up for caring for all of life.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's not just so much of the time the pro-life movement. It's really just about pro-birth. And like you said, once and once they're born, we're going to deny them health care. We're going to deny them food stamp money. If their parents can't feed them, we're going to deny them child care. We're going to deny them clean water and air. So yeah, it's some priorities are not.
It makes me want to weep for who we've become as a nation, that we don't think that we're in this together. I had a friend tell me the other day, it's all these members of Congress and wealthy people who are born halfway to home plate that think they did it on their own and are so judgmental. This series of rural roundtables that we've done around the country is trying to understand rural communities. I'm a city person. I don't know rural communities. I do now a lot better. But so we've held 17 of them around the country, and we're about to issue a report. But so many of the rural roundtables, I would start with, oh, what does city folk get wrong about country living? You know, kind of everybody laughs and gets involved and starts talking. But inevitably, almost at every one, somebody would say, well, they get wrong. City folk think country people are dumb and uneducated, and it's not true. And then breaking that open, how the divide is so intense that people feel so dismissed by each other, so unseen, unvalued. And if we've got a nation of people who are feeling dismissed and unvalued, no wonder we can't move forward. No wonder we have this anguish in this time. And
Right.
I think of, you know, Jesus's command to love one another. How do we evidence love and care in a respectful way? And then we had the president last week at the prayer breakfast dismissing that commandment and saying, oh, well, he wasn't going to do it. It's like,
Yeah.
what?
That was actually something we planned to ask you about. So thank you for jumping into that. You just see that spirit. See the spirit. That's where it goes. So that was, so Trump openly mocked Jesus at the prayer breakfast. As a faith leader, how do you, and you just pretty much expressed kind of how you feel about that, but really by mocking the Sermon on the Mount, that's directly mocking Jesus Christ at the prayer breakfast, and that's kind of unprecedented.
Well, and this is, I think, the sign of how vulnerable and insecure he is that he couldn't possibly look at himself and have any, what we in my tradition call examination of conscience. Where did we fall short of the challenge posed in the Christian gospel? And I know for me, I don't like looking at when I screwed up. I mean, I try really hard to not screw up, but then sometimes I do, and it's really important to face it, engage it, and change. I mean, that's what Christianity is all about. This is our pilgrimage, our role. But the poor man is so threatened by looking at his own life. I can only, on my better days, when I'm in a place of prayer and compassion, I can only imagine what how traumatic or what a wasteland his life is if he's unable to examine his own conscience or make some choices, feel like I should have done that differently.
Well, I also feel like if he opens that door, there's so much to look at that he can't possibly face it all at one time. I feel like he's shut that door so many times that turning around to try to open the door will just lead to all the rest of the doors for all the rest of the time that he's done things that he could have done differently or better or changed. And I think that perpetuates the egomania.
Oh, that's interesting. Yeah, that's interesting. Well, and I mean, I think it's more, clinically narcissistic or whatever it is, but it's interesting to me that the one door he's done to hold on to his righteousness is that he doesn't drink alcohol. And I think in his growing up experience, it seems like alcohol played a very corrosive experience in his childhood with his father and his brothers. So I think he held on so tight. And when I practiced law, I did family law for 18 years. And so learned a lot about alcoholic dynamics. And you can be a dry alcoholic when you hold on so desperately to a single thing, and then it corrodes everything else in your life. And I wonder if that's a piece of the dynamic that's going on. And maybe it'd be better if you had a little drink sometime. I don't know. But the challenge is for me and for us, when he's doing such destructive things to our nation, our democracy, our economy, our sense of the common good, our Constitution, is to still hold a piece of compassion for him. And I spent a fair amount of time this past weekend trying to just be in prayer, and I was not in a good space. So I was trying to get in a better space to deal with all this. But
Yeah, it's hard, and that's you know, especially in all of our role as followers of Christ, and trying to hold give some hope out. It does get wearing, right? It gets weary. A lot of our volunteers, and I'm sure that at Network you have the same thing. You know, we try to spend some time boosting each other, saying, hey, take a break, go see a movie, go, do whatever feeds your soul, because it's a difficult time for us. And what do you say to people in that role, that, as far as our role right now in this time in our country as followers of Christ? What can we do? I mean, pray, obviously.
But I think the key that gets missed is the fact that hope is a communal virtue, and that we can only maintain our hope to the extent that we're connected with each other, that we're connected someplace in community. And I have a book coming out in September, and actually the title is Hunger for Hope. And it tries to explore what is necessary to keep hope alive, and how do we keep going. So the being together, being willing to weep at times together, but also to engage then in the journey of where we do find hope with each other. I mean, this is hope giving for me.
Yeah.
So
me too.
the importance of that care and dynamic for each other. So and the benefit of community is that, okay, I'm not going to be hopeful every day. That's for sure. I wasn't this past weekend. So, but if I'm with others who are, then I can we carry each other through this time.
Yes. No, absolutely. That's so true. And I'm excited to hear that you have a book coming out about hope in September.
Think anything's going on that it might be helpful?
I'm going to need it, sister.
Actually, so am I.
I can't wait. I read your last book, and it was a real blessing. I loved it. How can people get involved with what Network is doing? I'm signed up to your email alerts, and so I definitely encourage our followers to do that. So what are you guys working on right now, and how can people get involved?
Go to our website, networklobby.org, and you can sign up. It says Take Action. And then what we do is send out, when it's critical moments in either the House or Senate for legislation. You can also read our blogs, which are very educational, but not in that wonkish DC fashion, but quite accessible and informative. The other piece is, for those who really want to be involved at the absolute critical moment, is you can text the word nuns, N-U-N-S, to the number 877-877. And that gets you into, there's a little follow-up thing that goes on, but it gets you into our text alert system, which is we don't use it a lot, just at the most critical moment. And the nice thing about it is it connects you on your phone, and you just we send the phone number, bam, and you're connected. So it's trying to make advocacy easy. And those are the key ways. But if you're a paying member, you get our most beautiful Connection magazine, which I think is the most beautiful social justice magazine that's out. And this edition that just came out, it's in the mail right now, includes our voting record, so that you see how your member of Congress how your member of Congress voted on our key issues to mend the income and wealth disparity in our nation. This year, for the first time in 47 years, we were unable to score the Senate at all because they had no votes on income and wealth disparity, on economic justice. And without any votes on economic justice, to me, is a shocking indictment. And so our word on the Senate level is elections matter. Mm-hmm. Elections matter. Be involved.
Yeah, they do. Yeah, they do. That is shocking. For the first time in 47 years.
Zero.
And is that a lack of care, do you think, or is that simply a blocking of anything that the Democrats, any kind of bipartisanship?
Even the bipartisan stuff has Mitch McConnell's blocked. We've worked on that on the Senate side with a number of bipartisan issues, and Mitch McConnell's just blocked it. Wyden Grassley is a bipartisan bill on drug pricing. Mitch McConnell's blocked it. It's just his loyalty to the White House. He won't do anything until the president has said at least twice that he's for it. Because if he just says it once, you never know if he's going to stick. So, but nothing, it's shocking. He's not.
And that's how little. And that's how little the president talks about anything to do with economic justice.
Well, there's that too.
Yeah, or else that would be something they would be taking on. Yeah, you're right. We need a change, and I agree with you that getting out Mitch McConnell out is as important as the change of leadership at the top.
It would help.
Yeah, absolutely. We hope and pray, right?
Amen. Fasting until the election. What do you think?
Amen. Oh, well, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule to talk to us over here.
Happy to do it. Happy to do it.
What Would Jesus Pod? Do you have any cool upcoming appearances we should be watching for?
Oh my gosh. I'm going to Detroit in a couple weeks at an organization called Elephants in the Living Room. They talk about stuff that nobody wants to talk about, so that's going to be kind of fun. And then I have, Philadelphia, California. I'm going to be in, where am I going to be? Oh, in Los Angeles coming up. So the first, I think it's March 1st. That's Sunday, whatever it is, March 1st, 2nd. So should be good. Look for me.
Cool.
And my travel is up on our website too at networklobby.org. People can see what mischief we're making.
Yes, I love the mischief y'all make over there. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you. Appreciate it.
God bless you and your work. We'll talk again before the end of the year, before the election.
I look forward to it. We'll be able to see.
Yeah, absolutely.
Maybe around September.
Yeah. Thank you.
God gave us lots of different ways to decide what is true and what isn't. He gave us eyes to see, ears to hear people's truths or lies, common sense to make deductions, the ability to add things up, and to see when they don't add up. God loves the truth. And in 2 Timothy, he even says, do your best to present yourself to God as one approved, a worker who has no need to be ashamed, rightly handling the word of truth. God places value on truth. Be sure to like and subscribe to keep up on all the latest news from ChristianDems.org and What Would Jesus Pod. Here's a clip from 2018 where Christina Forrester calls out the religious right for their hypocrisy.
For my closing remarks today, I just want to talk about the Trump train wreck in biblical terms. Proverbs 6:16 through 19 are lists of 7 things the Lord hates. So I'm just going to read it right here. There are 6 things the Lord hates, 7 that are detestable to him. Haughty eyes, a lying tongue, hands that shed innocent blood, a heart that devises wicked schemes, feet that are quick to rush into evil, a false witness who pours out lies, and a person who stirs up conflict in the community. So take a look at the president's tweets from this week. Just go through and compare them to this. Compare them to haughty eyes, a lying tongue, a heart that devises wicked schemes, feet that are quick to rush into evil, a false witness who pours out lies, and a person who stirs up conflict in the community. It's almost as if the scripture is describing the president. Now, some might challenge me on hands that shed innocent blood, but I would challenge right back. Look at Puerto Rico. Look at the hundreds of deaths that could have been prevented had the administration acted faster and had there been any compassion. When the mayor of San Juan came out and begged for mercy, begged for help, she was met with haughty eyes. She was met with a false witness. So don't be so quick to discount hands that shed innocent blood. And just in closing today, I just want to say that the religious right is still supporting this president, still supporting him, even amidst the train wreck. And what would it take to get them to actually look at their values, look at what Jesus taught, look at true Christian values, and see exactly what this president is about? I, for one, I don't know if I want to know how far it would have to go before some of these, quote, leaders in the Christian community finally take a stand for Jesus and finally stand for his values. Thank you very much. We'll talk to you next time on The Place Where Real Christian Values Meets Politics.